As a creator, sometimes you just need to sharpen your tools. And instead of working on what I should be doing, the most important thing, I've spent the last 24 hours just sharpening tools a little bit. And what I've done is try to throw away my dependency on Visual Studio Code and go back to the thing I was doing maybe 3 or 4 years ago and using Vim. But in that time, Vim's got a lot better. Vim is now, well, Neovim is now entirely configured with Lua, and it seems like it's come a long way with things like the language server integration and other stuff. So it felt like this was a good time to try and see whether I can produce the same sort of high fidelity experience I get from Vscode and things like that, but using essentially Vim in the terminal, because philosophically that aligns perfectly with how I would prefer to use a code editor. And so the past 24 hours have been me doing that, and I'm going to show you the result now because I think it's pretty cool, and I think I've managed to get to the stage where I don't need to use VS Code anymore, I can use this, which is also, for this MacBook, a nice little bonus, since I don't know what VS Code uses these days, but it's probably north of 500 gigabytes of RAM, and Neovim in the terminal uses it a lot less, so it's nice and fast. So let me show you. Okay, so I'm going to open the terminal up here and go into this empty TypeScript project. There's nothing in this, just some ESLint config, just the default ESLint config, and TypeScript is installed as well. But instead of code dot open in VS Code, I can now do nvim instead, which is Neovim. And the first thing is, this is my terminal, right? This is actually really nice, a little tree sort of structure here. Not that you want to browse in modules, but I have pretty familiar kind of tree structure. I don't need to always see that. I can hide that away with the leader key, which is space in my case. Leader EE or leader EE to bring it back. Let's make this full screen as well. Now, the cool thing here as well is that I can do all the familiar stuff like create files. So if I go inside here actually, and we'll create a TS file in here, so I can show you some of the language server integration. This is really nice. So I can say, okay, const x 123, and you can see now I have like a small icon there. What I've actually done is hidden away the inline errors. I don't want to see them in the window itself. I want to see them where I would see them in VS Code, so I can go leader XX and bring up this trouble plugin down here, which shows this familiar issue, and this is coming from ESLint. So this is the ESLint language server that's surfacing this information. The X is never used, which is great. I use ESLint in several projects, so nice to see this here in Neovim. And then in terms of the language server, if I was to change this, for example, to a let, now I think that'll be enough to do it. So now you can say I have two problems. I can see down here that there's two issues. And again, if I can actually turn those on inline with leader LX, and now I can see them here, or I can bring up the trouble again. And you can see here now I'm getting two. Oh, actually, they're both from ESLint in this case. Okay, cool. ESLint's the thing that's called both of those. Okay, so let's do something from the language server, which would be something that's a language level mistake. So if I do const again here, and then try and reassign to a const, obviously you cannot do that. So if I try and do this, and save this, now I have this issue, two issues. So this is the inline stuff. I can turn that on and off with leader LX, which is nice. I can also open this trouble pane, and now you can see here I have an ESLint surface problem, and I have a diagnostic here also from the TypeScript language server that tells me that, yep, I can't reassign to a constant. So this is super cool stuff. I really like this. Another nice thing is there's a plugin I'm using here called Telescope, which enables me to fuzzy find things. So I do leader FF, and now I can browse through a flat list of the files that are in this working directory with a preview on the right hand side, and you can fuzzy find those. So if I was looking for tsconfig, I could just type ts and then ig, and it will still find it. And then I can just open this file. So let me close this trouble window. I can also close the tree there as well, so I can just fuzzy find my way through everything now and go back to index, open that. Nice and fast. And let's get rid of this. So the other cool thing about this is the other language server integration stuff. So if I open this tree back up again, go in here and create another file. Let's call this lib. And then inside lib, I'm going to actually let me show you something else. I can do the split here. Actually, I don't want that kind of split. Let's do a horizontal split. I got lib down here, and then up here I will have index. Now let's do lib first. So lib. Inside lib, let's create something that we can export. I'll call it greeter. It doesn't really matter. It's just a bit of an example. So we have a function called greeter that's just going to console the log. And also pay attention to, I'm opening a bracket and the closing bracket is opened as well. Same with quotation marks. I'm going to use single on purpose here because I also have formatting set up in Neovim 2, which uses prettier in this case because it's TypeScript. So if I say, for example here, message is, and then append message. Now there's no semi on here either, there's no semi down here. I'm using single quotes. If I save this file, you're going to see it's changed the quotes automatically to double. It's also put the semi down here as well. Pretty cool. So formatting is working. And just to show that in an even more obvious way, if I just like put a lot of spaces in here and then save this file again, it's going to fix it for me. That's great. There is actually an error here, so let's just surface it inline. It's saying that it's never used. That makes sense. This is a module and nothing is using greeter. However, oops, I'm going to use greeter somewhere else. So what I want to do here is insert an export, and that'll solve the problem there. Now let's go back up here, and I'm going to import in index this greeter from. Now another plugin here is if I do quotation mark, again single, Pretty is going to replace that for me in a second, and then // is going to show me what's in the file system, which is quite nice. And then down here I can call greeter. Now it requires a string variable, of course. When I save this, I'm going to see that not only did it format this code up here, change the quotation marks, but the language server is also surfacing this problem to me. If I want type information, like I would get in Vscode by hovering over the thing, I can do K here, which is going to surface type information from the language server, which tells me, well, shows me the type signature, so I can see that it requires a string here. And then again, if I just put string in here, whatever, it doesn't matter. Everything is good again. And it's just other things like, for example, jumping to definition. So if I was here and I'm like, okay, what's the definition of this thing? Then I can say jump to definition here, and it's gone into the lib file, and then I can go back. This kind of navigation, this kind of high fidelity like code experience is completely comparable to the kind of stuff I used in VS Code, except it's all in my terminal in Vim, which is awesome. And then other things like code actions. For example, up here, I can do a rename on this, FN, let's say, and you're going to see it change that. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Rename, FN. Oh, I see. It's because I'm renaming the thing there. I don't want to rename this, I want to rename it down here, right? I want to show you what happens if I rename it at source. So if I do a rename here instead, we call it greeter.fn, you'll see it change it up there where it's imported. So again, that's a feature you see in VS Code, it's pretty standard, but having it in Vim, in the terminal, just seems cooler for some reason, I don't know. And then I think there was one other thing I want to show you, code actions. So if I, let's say in this file here, I make the mistake I did before of saying, I have let x equals 1, 2, 3, and then if I console log x, now x is being read but it's not being changed, so it's saying x is never reassigned, change that to a const. Now I could do that myself, or I can say, show me some code actions. These are provided directly via the language server, and number 3 there is ESLint offering to fix the problem, and it's just, if I choose that, it's going to do what I would do, which is change that let to a const. Really cool stuff. There's a bunch of other things in here as well, moving splits around, going back to just, no, I can close this, I can make this split a different kind of, make this split this way, and then say, actually, in this file, maybe I want to open the lib file, and then maybe I want to edit just this file for now, so I'm going to maximize this split. You can see I've sort of got 2 splits open here, but this one's full screen, so I can work on this, then pull that back, and then close that when I need it, bring this back, or bring fuzzy find back, bring the, oh, there's no issue, so I can't bring up XX. But that's kind of what I wanted to demonstrate. I think I've got to the point now where this experience in Neovim is completely comparable to what I was getting from VS Code, and so I'm going to try all this out for the next month or so and see if I can use this on all the different projects. I have some Go projects as well, and the integration for Go is exactly the same. All the same integration you'd expect from the Go plugin that people use in VS Code. So yeah, really happy with this. I'm going to link in the description my dot files, which contains my current configuration for Neovim, but it's a pretty standard setup. It's a standard color scheme anyone can just grab, and the various plugins I'm using, you'll find them on any guide of how to set up Neovim in 2024. But if you are curious about the ones that I'm using here, the ones I've just shown, then you can just take a look at those files, and everything's inside there.